How do you scar a man known as the strongest haki user in the world before he even becomes a legend? The truth about that moment when Blackbeard left 3 permanent marks on Shanks has remained one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in One Piece history. But now, after over 1,000 chapters, the puzzle pieces are falling into place. And what's even more shocking, this wound wasn't just about power. It was about timing, fate, and a dark encounter that may have changed the balance of the new world forever. In this video, we're diving into the stunning revelations from One Piece chapter 1152, where Oda pulls back the curtain on Shanks' scar and what it really means for the rivalry between him and Blackbeard. This isn't just a story of strength, it's a glimpse into a hidden past. When Shanks was still unproven, Elbaf was steeped in political turmoil, and strange alliances were forming in the shadows. What role did Scopper Gaban play? Why was Shanks already moving through key territories tied to the world government? And could this mean that the red-haired Yonko was being shaped not just by his mentors, but by enemies he never saw coming? Let's break it all down. Shanks already had his scar 14 years ago. Loki's flashback shows Shanks with the scar. Shanks was very young back then. Oda finally started the Loki flashback in One Piece chapter 1152, and it was fascinating to see the events from 14 years ago that addressed King Harold's death to a considerable degree. Meanwhile, it was discovered that Shanks and Scopper Gaban were spending time together in Elbaf, where they eventually detected an odd haki. Fans couldn't help but note that Shanks was in his mid-20s at the time he had the scar on his face, which had occurred 14 years prior. Shanks was therefore still a long way from reaching his prime. At this stage of the narrative, the red hair pirates were actually non-existent. In other words, it's crucial to keep in mind that Shanks was still far from reaching his full potential at this stage of the story. Blackbeard and Shanks met when Shanks was very young. Blackbeard likely met Shanks shortly after Roger's death. One thing is certain. Shanks and Blackbeard met at least 14 years ago, however. It's unclear what kind of relationship they have or when they first met. In other words, rather than the Shanks that many fans had anticipated, Blackbeard scarred a very young Shanks. The scar most likely occurred around the time of Roger's death, because Shanks is suggested to have worked for the Holy Knights at this point in the narrative. Therefore, it is quite possible that the scar occurred before he even accepted the position. Despite being Roger's dependable apprentice, Shanks probably stumbled into Teach while going his own way, and the two got into a fight, which resulted in Shanks' injuries. Shanks didn't hit his prime until much later. This was only conceivable because Shanks was still extremely young and far from his full power, as evidenced by the fact that Teach harmed him when he was very young. Fans can finally relax knowing that their cherished red-haired Yonko wasn't at his finest when it happened, as Oda has finally explained how Blackbeard could have hurt Shanks so severely after years of wondering how it was possible. Although Blackbeard isn't to be taken lightly, fans should keep in mind that they are both Yonko in the end, and that Blackbeard can defeat him just as easily as Shanks can. Summary and highlights. Shanks' scar was there 14 years ago. It is probable that Blackbeard met Shanks soon after Roger's passing. It took Shanks a long time to reach his peak. The scar on Shanks' face may have faded into familiarity, but its origin reveals far more than just a brutal clash. It hints at the untold history of a future Yonko, a rising Blackbeard, and the violent storm brewing after Roger's death. As Elbaf's arc unfolds, we're not just witnessing the present, we're uncovering the scars of the past. So if you're as hyped as we are to see where Oda takes this next, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Who really had the upper hand back then, Shanks or Teach? Let the debate begin. Thank you very much for visiting the Mugiwara Review YouTube channel, buddy. We hope you enjoy our review analysis. Don't forget to subscribe and continue joining us on our joyful journey in the world of anime. If you have any wishes, question, or suggestions for our next videos, feel free to express your thoughts on the comments below. Thank you very much for your support, and until we meet again, see you next time, buddy. What is One Piece anime? One Piece is a manga and anime story about a young boy named Monkey D. Luffy who wants to be the king of the pirates in the world. As a child, he eats a devil fruit, a strange plant that makes him able to stretch like rubber. Before the show starts, Luffy goes out into the world for the first time and starts to gather a group of pirates. The main group grows over time, but it starts with Luffy, Nami the Navigator, and a swordsman named Roronoa Zoro. At some point, Luffy and his friends are known as the Straw Hat Pirates, and they go on many exciting adventures across the ocean. One Piece is a lot of fun because it's silly. Luffy goes from island to island around the world in the series. Each island has its own setting and theme. It's a pretty fantastical world full of animals that look like people, live skeletons, and other delightfully strange things. Within moments, the group is in a winter scene, and the next, they are on a tropical island full of giants. The show is full of silly and bright details. For example, Zoro holds a sword in his mouth, a scary military boss wears a cute bulldog hat, and people don't use phones to talk to each other instead. They use special transponder snails that can send and receive messages. Luffy is a carefree person who just wants to eat a tasty meal and laugh at bad jokes. Even though there are some funny parts in the series, a lot of One Piece is about freedom. During his travels, Luffy often takes up guns to help his friends and encourages others to do the same against pirates and government-backed military occupations. The characters in Luffy and his crew get stronger with each fight, which is typical for shonen manga. A lot of the story is about how Luffy beats a problem that seemed impossible to solve and finds some kind of secret power. After each fight, Luffy and his team get stronger and move closer to his main goal, which is to find the One Piece. Why is it called One Piece? The first part of both the manga and the anime shows that Pirate King Gol D is telling the truth about the mythical wealth called the One Piece. One Piece is the name of the show, because Luffy wants to find the One Piece and become the next Pirate King. One of Luffy's main goals in the show is mentioned in the show's title. What is the One Piece? The answer to this question is still one of the biggest secrets in the series. It's been more than 1,000 episodes, and we still don't know what One Piece is. We know that the One Piece is the name of the treasure that Gol D collected on his travels because of details in the manga. We still don't know a lot about the treasure, though. There are a lot of ideas from fans about what the One Piece is, but we still don't know what it is or even if it's real. The One Piece could just be the friends Luffy makes along the way.